So Pete Buttigieg was on the Flagrant podcast a few days ago. And for those of you who don't know, the Flagrant podcast is a bunch of comedians, main one being Andrew Schultz, probably the most well-known. They bring on different guests all the time. They've had political people, rappers, athletes. They do a little bit of everything. I wouldn't say they're like political pundits or anything, but they do still talk about politics sometimes. And I think what made this such a big deal, well, maybe not a big deal to some of us who are used to our candidates going anywhere to speak like Trump does or some other conservatives. The left was praising this like he went into enemy territory on like a right-wing talk show. This was not that at all. These are comedians who pretty moderate in most ways. Some are left, some are right. And they're not going to ask him like super deep, hard questions. But it is unscripted. That's the biggest thing. Liberals do not like unscripted events. If anything was proven from the whole Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Tim Walz mess, is that they don't do unscripted well. So the left has praised Pete Buttigieg a lot just because he went to an unscripted environment for a few hours. So now everyone's talking about him being the candidate in 2028, which obviously is what he's doing it for. He's got to run for president in 2028. We all know that. So he's getting his name out there. He's doing stuff like this, which I will say, with respect, don't agree with people getting almost anything. I will say he is open to conversation. Probably the nice thing I'm going to say this whole video. He is open to conversation. Once you shut down conversation, which a lot of people on the left like to do, you can't prove your argument. You can't convince anybody. You lose. So the fact that he's open is good. Good for him. And good for their party if he's ultimately the one chosen. So I'm going to pull out a few bullet points from this video that basically kind of still show, even though he is willing to do unscripted things, the Democrats really still don't have an answer as a party. Like, they don't know what they're doing. So before I get into this, make sure you like, subscribe, follow down below. I'm going to put the link to this original podcast in the description too if you want to watch the whole thing. It's like almost 3 hours long. Without further ado, let's get started. So this first part right here is basically one of the guys asking, why don't other Democrats do this? Why are Democrats terrified to show up for a show?
So what are things the Democratic Party can do better? Because you go speak to both sides.
Dude, we've begged so many Democrats to come on this platform.
You were the only guy that agreed, and then you had to back out, allegedly, because you had to do debate prep.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That seems like a big deal.
I'm glad it worked out in the end.
Good excuse. What we've been trying to do is like Mark Cuban, who was obviously a surrogate for the party, and he came on, he was fantastic. But everybody we asked is, they just wouldn't do it.
Yeah, there's this.
So he said right there, they literally said they've been begging liberals and Democrats to come on the show. None of them will do it. And they just won't do it. I think it's a combination of it's unscripted and Democrats are like afraid of like being canceled or being attacked by their own party. Also, there's just this mindset of in the left that they don't want to talk to anybody that doesn't think exactly like them. Like if you take Gavin Newsom as an example, he started his own podcast and his first guest, I think it was Charlie Kirk. All the left canceled like Gavin Newsom immediately just for having a conversation with Charlie Kirk. Like they don't even want you talking to the other side. You will never ever be able to win a debate or prove your side is right unless you're willing to talk to the other side. That's the only way. If once you shut down conversation, you automatically lose. So, and this is something I've heard from like people like Theo Vaughn invited Kamala Harris onto his podcast. I think Logan Paul invited, I think it was Joe Biden at the time, but invited Joe Biden on to talk. And these are comedians. These are, they're not serious political people. Joe Rogan, obviously probably the most famous one that invited Kamala Harris on. She refused, even though she blames him for it. It was 100% her. So many people invited both candidates on, and only Trump showed up. Because Trump can do unscripted, whether you think he's a liar or you tell him the truth, he can go through a 3-hour conversation with ease. Not even trying. If anything has been proven from his presidency since January 2020, is that dude does a press conference every single day, roughly. That's at least an hour long, just answering questions. He answered more questions, like in his first, I think it was like 30 days, he answered like 1,000 questions while Joe Biden only answered like 100. Like, that's insane. This dude's not shy. And the Democrats need someone equally as not shy, because if the Republicans do run JD Vance in 2028, JD Vance is the same way. He's not shy. He will not back down. Democrats need someone like that, or they will 100% lose. And it looks like Pete Buttigieg is trying to be that guy. We'll see if it holds up going forward. But I mean, I will say to his credit, it's a good start for him. Next part I think is kind of interesting. So basically they're talking about why people don't trust like the government and where your taxes go and everything like that, and comparing it to like other countries. I think it's an interesting topic.
Okay.
Trying to get a little farther. Let me speed up a little bit. This one's a little longer one. Playback speed.
Here's the actual question I have. I hear a lot of what you're saying is tax the rich, they need to pay their taxes. I remember moving from Texas to California. Texas, I started paying taxes, and it was like, I remember I was working at Verizon Wireless and doing a horrible job selling cell phones, and my commission would get taxed at like 40%. And I was like, okay, fair enough. But then I'm driving, the roads suck. The schools, from what I heard, sucked. New York, same thing. Very high taxes. There's no Second Avenue subway. Schools are horrible. If you have any kind of money, it seems like you're sending your kids to private schools, or you live in such a rich neighborhood that the public school is basically a private school. What the tax money seems like it gets wasted and doesn't get used wisely. So I have like an aversion to, they should pay their taxes, because my reaction is, I've seen what happens when people pay taxes.
I agree with that, what he said about California. I think what he said about California was.
I'm not going to shit on one state or another, but there is obviously a relationship between the results you see and your willingness to trust that there's anything you're getting out of your tax dollars.
My trust is very low.
Especially with
Americans' trust is very low, right? And if you look at, I know Democrats always like to point to Scandinavian countries, but I'm going to do it. One thing you notice about those countries, which do have a pretty high tax burden, but the reason there's also a higher sense among people that it's fair is that they get good results. They have good healthcare and good education. And that doesn't just happen because you put the money in. But if you put the money in and you do it right, then the public's going to be more trusting, right? That you're getting something out of those tax dollars.
So that's the biggest thing here, which he's not wrong when it comes to the government trusting. Like, I think a lot of Americans have every right not to trust the government, because like, where is our money going? It seems like our money is being wasted constantly. It seems like it's going to every country by our own people. It's awful. And so they made a really good point there. And what I really wanted to focus on here is, have you noticed that liberals and Democrats don't really point to the Scandinavian countries anymore as an example? You remember like 4 or 5 years ago, that's all they talk about is how great Sweden is. All I used to hear. Oh, they have free healthcare. They have free school. They have this, this, and this. You want to know why they don't talk about them anymore? It's because the same liberal policies they did there have destroyed that country. And I'm not talking about the healthcare still there. I think they're taxed at like 60-some%, which is insane. But the biggest thing is they basically had an open door policy for immigration, kind of like Joe Biden the last 4 years. And now they're crime filled. They have all these migrants in there leeching off the government, living off the government, doing nothing every single day, just living off tax dollars. And then also they went from one of the safest countries in the world to now they're like, I think, second in the world in assaults on women, like sexual assaults on women. They're like second in the world in like a 5-year span. And that's what happens when you bring in two different cultures at that magnitude and expect them just to work together. It doesn't work that way. And that's what conservatives have been telling liberals for the past 4 years with Biden, and the Democrats didn't listen. So then Trump won everything, House, Senate. And then guess what happened? He fixed the border within like a month. It took like a month for him to fix the border. And now he's working on getting all the illegals out. And it's blowing my mind. Like these are Democrat policies. So the same thing in Sweden. Those are the same policies they had. That's a big reason they don't talk about it anymore. Because their own policies destroyed that country. And they don't want you to know that. So let's go a little farther up here. This is more showing basically how scared the Democrat Party is of just the opposite aisle. Is more of that, more of they don't know what to do. They're lost. They're scared to get canceled by their own party. And you can't be a politician like that. You gotta say what you believe, because if you're so scared of everything all the time, it means your answers aren't real. Your views aren't real. Let me speed up this one too.
Between 80 and 90% support.
Yeah,
80% of Republicans are supporting gun owners, and yet we don't have. Yeah, like it's hard to even hold on to what we've got, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, my point is, like, my party should be on, by the numbers, doing better than it does, because more people agree with us more of the time on more policies than not. And so, yes, we have some work to do on policy.
So what
too,
do you got to change? Like, how do you just? Sorry, Al, but how do you change that perception if you know that more people agree with the policies that you guys have?
Which I would argue.
Why aren't they agreeing with you? And what are you doing wrong?
I think the biggest problem.
Piggyback on that.
Yeah.
So I think it's great going everywhere to speak to people. One thing that I don't see happening from the Democratic Party is getting their message out and actually convincing people or letting them know, like, hey, we're doing stuff, or these are the stuff we've gotten done. This is something I don't like that Trump does, but it actually works with, like, permeating the culture. Like, he ran on, hey, I'm going to get all these criminal migrants out of the country. And then he makes a video where you see all these guys chained up, coming off a plane, going in. That's messaging that you don't even need to understand. You see it, and it's like, hey, he said he's going to do something, and look, he's getting it done. So it's like, I think he knows how to play that social media game where it's like, oh, I know how to speak to people. And that's something Dems aren't doing at all. So it's great.
I will say, like, that's one thing I think. I don't know if it's Trump's social media guy or if it's Trump's, like, just life in the public eye for 40 plus years. The dude knows how to send a message, whether you like him or not. His campaign ads are great. He knows how to get the right attention. He knows how to get the support of people. His messaging is solid, and he knows how to send that messaging out there. The Democrats have no idea what they're doing, and they proved that this last campaign. They stayed hidden for so long. They would only do podcasts that if they had the questions up front, they weren't allowed to ask certain things. And then just their marketing. And they had 3 times the funding, too, that the Republicans had. They had $1 billion to spend, and they wasted it all. They didn't know how to send their message out. They shun people that has a slightly different view than them on anything. And they just don't know what they're doing. And Trump, I feel like, is better at connecting to the everyday American, whereas Democrat politicians are not. And it's crazy, too, because you would think that the billionaire would be harder to connect to than these so-called middle-class people, or people that grew up middle-class politicians. But you can connect to him better. He tries to connect to people better. He relates to people better. He can talk to people better. Democrats come off so phony and fake, like they're trying to act. Trump comes off genuine. And like I said, that's sad because people relate more to a billionaire. And like I said, I like Trump, but he's never had to work a hard day in his life. Like, yeah, running a business is hard. Yeah, multiple businesses, but I'm talking about physicality. He's never had to work a real physical job, and he can connect to people like that, though. Auto workers, manufacturers, like, he can connect to people like that. And Democrats have no idea how.
Great that you go talk to other places, but what other ways can you get your messaging through to people?
The only one that does it is AOC. And Bernie.
Yeah.
And it's very specific and very targeted, and it works. And it feels like everybody else is worried about, offending somebody or being yelled at by one of your constituents or one of those groups that you're supposed to be protecting.
Yeah. So I think.
And it's funny, too, because he mentions AOC and Bernie, and that's true. Those are 2 of the more vocal people in their party. They're very specific. They more have, like, socialist views versus, like, the moderate Democrats. But they're never going to be the candidates because the Democrat Party doesn't want this kind of candidates. They use them and abuse them when they need them for attention, like right now. But when Bernie was the leading candidate in the Democrat primary, all of a sudden Hillary won. When Bernie was leading Democrat in 2020, all of a sudden everyone dropped down to support Joe Biden. The people don't pick the Democratic candidate. The party does. And they will never pick someone like Bernie or AOC. Bernie hopefully doesn't run again because he's like 80 million years old. They will never pick someone like AOC. So they'll just use her to the end of time, but they will never pick her. And like I said, like he said, it's very targeted too.
2 things. One, I think what they're getting right, which is also what Trump understands about politics and attention, is that you can't be afraid of controversy. And sometimes it takes controversy to get something recognized. So, for example, like, part of why the country is talking about these deportations is there's a couple of things that are traveling together. Like, one, like, I think most people would agree with the idea that, like, violent criminals shouldn't be here, right? But then other things are happening. Like, they take some guy and just send him by mistake to a Salvadoran prison, right? Which is obviously, first of all, a huge, huge problem, like, morally. And
that right there too is another reason why they're losing. He's not just some guy. He was an El Salvadorian citizen. He illegally came to this country. He had a deportation order. And the argument was they put a stay on it because he was, I think, scared of gangs. All the gangs are locked up in El Salvador. So his argument that it's not safe, it's one of the safest countries on the planet now. And plus, he had the tattoos on his hand. He was caught, he got pulled over in 2022. Looked like he was smuggling people from Texas to Maryland, but the Miami did nothing about it, which really makes you wonder how many times that happened. He beat his wife. You know, it's a really well-known story now. This is the guy that they're all protecting. That is a losing issue that they have yet to realize. In the court, everyone says the 9-0 Supreme Court ruling, it ruled that we have to facilitate return, but it says nothing about us forcing ourselves into El Salvador to grab him. He's an El Salvadorian citizen. He's had plenty of years to try to become an American citizen. He's refused to. So, yeah, there's nothing to be done there.
And policy-wise. But in terms of the media game that he's playing, even if it's bad luck to have screwed up in that way, it helps him draw attention to what you're talking about, in addition to like the social media pictures of it being lined up in the chains. I experienced this a little bit in our stuff because when we did something, when we like got a bridge or a road built, it was incredibly hard to get attention on that. Like we did it. Like I was out there, I'd go on TV, I'd wave the flag, we'd do an event, cut a ribbon. But it turns out when something was uncontroversially good, it was way harder to get anybody to notice. The projects we got the most coverage on didn't get the most coverage because the project was really great. Although I believe in our projects. We did 70,000 projects around the country, from like Little Airport thing to like the Hudson River Tunnel. The projects that got the most coverage were the ones where we caught a Republican congressman trying to take credit for the project after they voted against it. Because it just created like a different, more interesting story, right? So like nobody would even know that we were, or very few people would have ever heard that we were doing a rapid transit project in Charleston, South Carolina, if the member of Congress there, Nancy Mace, hadn't tried to take credit for it and then got blown up on the internet because she tried to stop the fund.
See, I will say controversy does help when it comes to getting attention, but Trump gets attention all the time. He could breathe wrong and he would get attention. Now, the whole Nancy Mace thing, I'm not defending Nancy Mace. I don't really like her much. I think she does good with the bathroom stuff, but other than that, it seems like she tries to seek attention more than anything. But what I will say is, if you were good at marketing what you do and you had that personality or charisma that Trump does, you could get all this stuff, like attention to this. You could be like, hey, look at what we just did right here. Advertise the crap out of it. Show the whole world. It's just that the Democrats don't know how to do that. You know, they don't know how to style it in a way that's like, oh, this is cool. You know, oh, this is all, you know, they don't know how to do that. So he's really just making excuses here. They could do it. And we all know the Democrats spend a lot of money, so they have the money for it. But this is just an excuse here. That's all it is. They're just like, oh, well, they just don't like seeing our stuff. You know, literally everything Trump does gets attention, controversial or not. They have to, I think the biggest thing they have to do is pick a leader and just full force be behind that leader. That's what they need to do like right now. And that will help them tremendously. But all these people, I always tell these people on my TikTok page and everything like that, what they should do, and they don't ever listen. So they probably still won't. So this next part, a little longer, 4 minutes, four and a half. Oh, not that slow. Basically talking about what the parties need to do and how there's kind of some misconception about what the parties really want from the people, what the Republicans say about the Democrats, what the Democrats say about the Republicans.
Have a direction to go. They have to say, where are we going to go? And it seems like within the Democrat Party, there's a fracturing or like a bifurcating where you have the anti-Trump people that are like, we just hate Trump. And then you have sort of the economic, leftist liberal that says we need to tax the rich. And then you have sort of the social cultural war, Democrat that's like, we need to support all the downtrodden
Different
people.
ideas for progress.
And it seems so, spread and disorganized, whereas the conservatives just have to say, let's go back. And they can point at all the liberals and say, look how crazy they are. Let's just go back.
Yeah.
And so it seems like it's way easier for the conservative.
Oh, no question. Yeah. I mean, if the conservative project is just we're going to demolish, government is frustrating, irritating, doesn't always meet your expectations, so we're just going to burn it down, right? Or everything was better way back when, so we're just going to take you back. Absolutely. I mean, that's what Make America Great Again is.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's why I think it works.
But the reality is like there is no such thing as, in the real world, there is no again. The future is going to look different. Look at the world we're going into. We're going into a world where AI is transforming everything. I think we're still at the outset of that. We're going into a world where China is a very different kind of player than it was not that long ago. We're contending with some really heavy things that are going to require really original thinking. And part of, I think, where both parties have a problem is a kind of nostalgia. So you've got Republicans who are kind of nostalgic for the social order of the 50s, like women are in their place and we don't have to worry too much about like, you know, any kind of minority, whether it's a racial minority or a gender minority, like asserting too much desire for freedom or equality, like everybody's in their place.
We'll pause right there because this, I think, is absolutely ridiculous. And this is why Democrats clearly don't get the message. So he says, oh, we want women in their place. No, that's not what it is. A lot of conservative households do like if women stay home. A lot of women like to be the ones staying home. A lot of people in general, a lot of couples, a lot of husbands, wives, whatever, would love to be able to live just on one income. That way the other parent is always home with their kids and they don't have to pay for daycare. That's what they mean by the 1950s. The man goes out, works, mom cleans the house, watches the kids, makes dinner, happy family. That's a want, and that's not just men that want that, women want that too. Like they would love to be home. A lot of women don't want to work. You know, you might see the girl boss and stuff like that, and they do exist. But a lot of women want to be at home with the kids and the family and want to raise their kids. But because of a situation we're in where everything is so crazy expensive, you pretty much, in most situations, need two incomes to survive. So that's why both parents usually work. And then you have basically public school raising the kids, which public school isn't good. So that's what they mean by 1950s, usually that style. And the whole brown, most conservatives do not care what color you are, dude. That's the biggest issue is conservative, all the DEI stuff. Conservatives want everyone treated equal. Liberals with the DEI want minorities on a pedestal. Like, oh, you're black? Oh, well, we have to give you this job. Oh, you're gay? Well, we need a gay on the manager level, so we're going to promote you. That's what they do. It's not about how much you contribute, what your qualifications are, anything like that. It's about what you look like. And they try to say we're the racist ones. We could care less what color, whatever you are. If you can contribute, you can work, you can have good ideas, you're good. And like, so that argument's so stupid.
And Democrats have a nostalgia for this kind of New Deal and post-World War II order. Like in terms of foreign policy, it's the post-World War II framework that we set up with the UN and NATO that kind of made, you know, was our response to everything that happened. And then domestically, we set up this administrative state, which solved a lot of problems, but has now run the risk of collapsing under its own weight. Right. So we've got to cure ourselves of our nostalgia in my party and recognize that like there's no going back.
I do think it's a bit unfair to say that about Republicans. There's a faction of Republicans I absolutely believe that about with the social order. But again, you go to Middle America, and then it was very eye-opening for me. I went to a city, I think it was Toledo in Ohio, where I was like, oh, I expected a city, and this place is like decaying. And anytime I made a joke about it at a show, they would like laugh so cathartically, like finally someone gets it. And I think when they hear "Make America Great Again," I'm sure some people think about social order, but a lot of them are probably thinking, much like your town, we used to have the Studebaker or whatever here. We used to have manufacturing here. Bring that back. Right. The racial stuff, I don't care about that. I just want to make my city great again. That was what America was to me.
But to your point,
see, he's a liberal, and he worded this perfectly. And I've heard Theo Von say this too. So like you have comedians that go to like travel all around doing their comedy shows, so they see what America's like. A lot of liberals, and Pete Buttigieg's from Indiana, so you think he would understand this a little better. I think he says from a small town, Indiana. A lot of these middle America countries, there's abandoned buildings everywhere from factories and then jobs leaving them. You know, like Tyson was famous, I think in Iowa, they laid off like 1,500 of their workers and then hired like 4,000 illegals to replace them. Like, that's wrong. Like, there's so many small towns throughout Central America, like West Virginia, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, that are abandoned, forgotten about. And that's why people want these jobs back. Like liberals scoff at like, oh, who's going to work manufacturing? Who's going to do this? Like Americans would if they were given the opportunity. Not everyone lives in New York City or Los Angeles. Like people in the middle of the country need to be represented too. And yeah, so it's just forgotten about. And the guy here on the right, I always forget his name. He said that's what they're nostalgic about. Those jobs existing, those towns thriving. they don't thrive anymore. They're forgotten about and they're abandoned. And then that's why they have like rampant drug issues, because what else are they going to do all day? You know, they're bored. As we all learned during the pandemic, when you have nothing to do all day, you're going to resort to alcohol, drugs, something to ease the pain, I would say.
And to your point, like what we had to do when I was mayor of South Bend was to move on from that. And it wasn't saying like we're done with manufacturing, we're never going to make things anymore. It was saying we're not going. There's no such thing as going back to the Studebaker days.
I'm just touchy because I think for liberals, liberals often will say that about conservatives. Oh, they like the social order, and I feel that's a bit dismissive of their pain. And not that you are very good about. I just think there's a messaging issue in the way they're often talked about.
Sure, and we should come back to that. But I think the conservative. If you look at the actual conservative governing plan, though, not the talk, not the campaigning, not the posturing, what they actually do.
Okay.
I would say the biggest social policy commitment that they've made that they actually care about to the point that they actually went through and kept it was to get rid of the right to choose. Number one project, the Republican Party on the social side. Yeah. That's one of the few promises they actually kept.
Yeah, that's valid, yeah.
And then economically.
And that's another reason y'all lost. You obsessed over abortion and nothing else. All you did. And you guys fear-mongers said Trump's going to have this nationwide abortion ban, which he has no intention of doing. He actually thinks a lot of the Republicans are a little extreme, which I agree some of them are. I think there should be exceptions, and I think it's okay up until a heartbeat. That's just my opinion. Once it has a heartbeat, I think you should be able to do it. But that's the issue where Democrats, I agree, that was their one winning issue, especially with young people. But that's all they talked about. That's the only issue they talked about. You can't run on one issue. So, and that's not, obviously, that didn't win the election for you. So you need to move past that and focus on something else.
Yeah. The biggest promise they've actually kept is tax cuts for the rich. Biggest thing that he did in his first term. And right now it's up for debate right now. Literally Congress it's not getting as much attention because all the other crazy things going on. But it's more tax cuts for the rich and for corporations, right?
Yeah, this is also something that's misleading. So the tax cuts that we got in 2017 were tax cuts for everyone. Everyone got a tax cut. Everyone was living better because of the tax cuts. Like that's what they don't focus on. Like we all middle class, the upper class, lower class, all got a tax cut. And the main thing that they want to do here is just extend those tax cuts. That's all it is, because they expire at the end of this year. The bill is going to extend them. All it is. It's not more tax cuts, it's just extending it. But they don't want you to know that.
So to me, like, most of the stuff he said.
Another thing too, on top of that, let's talk about tax cuts for the rich, right? Did you know that Kamala Harris had more billionaire backers than Donald Trump did? Kamala Harris had at least 85 billionaire backers, while Trump had about 50. Why would all those billionaires voluntarily vote for Kamala Harris and put money in her campaign if they knew they were going to pay more taxes? If that's all it was about. It doesn't make any sense. They're saying, oh, he's only helping out the rich. He's helping his rich buddies. Then every billionaire should be backing Trump. Okay? It makes no sense.
He was going to do, he didn't actually do. He didn't do the big infrastructure bill he talked about. We actually did it. He didn't even build
infrastructure should be left up to the states, my opinion.
The wall. That's the thing. Build the wall was
like, he actually did build part of the wall. And then you know what happened when he started building the wall? Biden took over and paused it. He completely paused the whole project, and then he sold the parts that were already there that laid out there for like 3 years, and he sold them all for like dirt cheap. So he did build part of the wall. He just didn't get a chance to finish it.
Like a galvanizing statement. It's not like he actually did it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying to you.
2% of it. But I want to do something you actually follow through on, right? A galvanizing statement that's all bullshit is not good enough.
Give me something.
I think what I'm saying is he's being hyperbolic. I can try to break him down.
I'm being dead serious.
Speak to people at an emotional level, even if it's not realistic.
Okay, so this brings us to the other thing that I think we've been skirting around a little bit, right?
What I'm saying is tell people, if you want to help them, say the thing that you think they need help with out loud. Directly. And say that you're going to do it, and then endeavor to do it. We already expect you guys not to do it. So the least you could do is fucking lie to me. You don't even lie to me. Like, have the decency. It's like, we're married, okay? You're out there cheating on me with Scandinavian. It's good.
Yeah, so, yeah, they like, he's making a good point there, where he's basically saying, like, you need to have some kind of, like, big idea that relates to people. Like, whether Trump finished the wall or not, which he didn't, but he wanted to, it was more of a symbol that he wants to put Americans first. He wants to stop illegals from coming over the border. He wants to stop putting migrants first. He wants Americans first. That's what that basically was the symbol of. Democrats don't have that big issue because they don't put Americans first. All last year they talked about Ukraine and Palestine and Israel, and now it's all about these illegals getting deported who are not citizens here. They're putting literally everyone else first except American citizens. They have not learned. So this last part I want to play here, basically proving the Democrats have zero solutions at all to anything. Just listen to Mayor Pete's response. Let me speed this up too.
What did you care about?
I want everyday life to be better.
That's what they want too.
You get up in the morning, yeah, but importantly, like all the controversies are over what that's like. Like I want you to be able to get up in the morning, and the first thing you do is you commute to work. And by the way, if you're on EV, I want that to be affordable for you. Or if you're on public transit, not to get back into the subway situation, but I want you to have good public transit to get to where you're going. And then when you get to that job, I want you to be paid well. And if you're about to have a kid, I want you to know that you're going to have parental leave when you have that kid. And if you don't want to have a kid, I want you to have the right to choose whether to have a kid, which means access to birth control and abortion and those things that give you the freedom to decide on that. And if you already have a kid, when you pick them up at school, I want that school to be good, not having its funding slashed while they set fire to the Department of Education. And then when you get home, I want you to be in a neighborhood that is safe and where you can breathe the air, because we didn't let them get rid of the Clean Air Act. And you don't have to think for one moment about whether the air you breathe or the water you drink is clean and clear, which actually takes a lot, because it means the government has to constrain those actors that would make you unfree by polluting the air and polluting the water. And then when you go to bed, I want you to know that your family's going to be fine, even if it's family like mine, despite there being some Supreme Court justice who wants to obliterate your family because it doesn't match his interpretation of his religion. Like, that's the life I want everybody to be able to live.
Yeah, I think
we can deliver that.
Listen, I liked hearing that. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was beautiful. I know you want that. Tell me that it's gonna happen.
See, so that what basically he's saying there is the Democrats talk, but no action. They'll say what you want to hear all the time. They're very good at trying to say what you want to hear, but they don't actually pull through.
And then how is it going to happen? Like, that's the difference between, like, it's build the wall. And I keep harping on this, but I think it's important for Democrats to understand the effectiveness of that statement. Build the wall wasn't even about build the wall.
Right.
It's an idea.
It was an idea that satisfied a concern that people felt. So what are your ideas that are going to satisfy the concern? What you just told me are all these things that I also want. So now we're together. We both want the same things. But you didn't give me the solution to the feeling that I have. I too want a safe home. You didn't say security guard outside of your door every night, whatever bullshit, you know what I mean? If it's more police on the street, whatever the thing is, punish petty crimes, whatever the thing is. So, and I think that there's a lot of Americans that are at the end of their hope, right? And they feel really disillusioned, and they feel this lack of trust that we've spoken about today, and simply wanting things that they want isn't enough. And I think that's when you said, like, current circumstances lead to a Trump victory. It's not like Trump populism. I think there was a rejection of the establishment for a lot of people. And then hearing from Kamala that she wasn't really going to do anything differently, I think that was a big mistake, because I think people wanted to change. So I think that's
the biggest thing too, is Kamala is put in this spot where if she goes against Biden, then she just sat around and watched Biden destroy the country for 4 years. And then she could have stayed with Biden, which is what she did, which no one liked what Biden did for 4 years. Lose-lose.
Thing that you guys should endeavor to do is tell us specifically what you're going to do that satisfies those things we're feeling. It seems you know exactly what we're feeling, because that was beautiful. I think all of us were like, yo, you just hit it. You're not
Let's listen to this right here.
out the park. But I need the statements that are going to satisfy those feelings, because that's what gets people to sway over. And that's what they're fucking good at.
Yeah, the bumper sticker.
They are, So what's a Democratic bumper sticker?
I'm working on it.
He said, I'm working on it. That's what he said. He can't think of one thing that's like, oh, this is what Americans are struggling with right now. You know why? Because the DNC hasn't told him that talking point yet. These are people, like, if you ask Trump right now, Trump will give you an answer. You ask JD Vance, JD Vance will give you an answer. Democrats are scared to answer stuff that they don't have permission to answer. They need to all be a collective unit and all answer the same thing. So they have to get together and decide, oh, what is it? And then when they don't have that answer, they go, oh, I'll get back to you. Oh, I don't have the answer. They're scared. They are 100% scared of confrontation, of conversation, of debate. They're scared of all of it. And like I said at the beginning of this video, I give Pete Buttigieg for going into here, but you can tell, like, this pushback, and I highly recommend you guys watch this whole thing, this pushback he's gotten from these comedians is not that rough, but he struggled with this pushback. Okay? How would he do against, like, a political pundit or someone that, like, say he went on, like, Tim Pool or something on one of his shows? Tim Pool's going to push back on him left and right about every little thing he says. He's not going to be able to handle it. So they need to get better at that. Like, Trump, Could go on CNN, MSNBC. He can go on anything, pushback, and handle the pushback. He went on, what was it, the National Black Journalists Group, whatever. They were not friendly towards him. He handled it just fine. So you need a candidate that can handle this stuff. And I will say, like I said, I give him credit for doing it. It's good he did it, but he needs to, one, be better at answering, and two, need to do more of this. Maybe doing more of this will give him more practice. He needs to not be afraid to answer the question. That's the biggest thing. Not afraid to say what he really wants to say. And not just wait for the Democrat collective to be like, oh, this is what we're saying about this now. Oh, this is what our party views. Have your own opinion. Be a real person. That's why people like Trump, he says what he's thinking. He says what is on his mind. You know, it's not some BS. You need to be more like that. But that's pretty much all I got for this video. You know, like I said, I guess I give people to get credit for going on there. I don't think it, you know, obviously Democrats, it doesn't take much to impress them. I do think he's probably the leading candidate right now. We'll see if other Democrats follow his lead. Obviously, 2028 is a long ways to go. But we'll see what happens. Thank you guys for watching. Like I said, make sure you like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what you guys think of this podcast, and I'll talk to you next time.